Oh, hello there, Travis. What are we actually seeing starts to get complicated? It was easy. It will start to separate. Are definitely not behind that restricted access grid. They're not. Forget about it.
None of them will be able to be revived.
So please, be reasonable. Returning to the orientation we usually the private traditional. A stabby, but I don't think. And those rectangular outcroppings weren't. Here is my Catwoman glove and glove. I should have a floating, impossible anti-gravity blah blah blah. Now, if we were to take it, snapshots, eventually, how do you transmit a discrete shell?
Well, Aria, we've been tracking this thing for weeks and we still don't know what it is.
The basilisk has its eyes on you. What are you going to do? And at some point, the acceleration is going to get so high that you're going to pass 9.8 meters. Look, I know that neither of those examples were fun. A screaming fish on this side would never be fun, leaving me weightless no matter where I am. What the? We generate our truth endogenously or within our own bodies.
I give killer high fives.
Is it? Is it? This story is only one of a dozen. Okay, good, because it's rock, paper, scissors. Where are you right now?
Bam.
The finger laser. That finger laser. Isn't that wild? Finger laser.
What is good coffee about? Oh, I'm sorry, what were we talking about?
Like that, you could probably use it as some sort of roller coaster. Yeah, no, I mean, technically, it would be like the world's shortest yeah, well, yeah, it depends on the organisms you want to use. I mean, on your planet, if you have, you know, some kind of tardigradian resistance to G-forces, then I don't see a problem. I mean, there's things in here there's things on Earth that can survive, you know, centrifuge-like motion, so I don't see a problem for all the species. Oh, no. Like, our skeletons would almost rip right out of our own skin. Oh, it's this large organ that covers our whole body. I know it sounds weird to you. Anyway, yeah, you know, I could probably have 5 of them to your planet in, I don't know, 2,000 years? No, humans don't look like that. Close, though. Okay, love you, bye. The sense of humor on those dudes. Oh, hello, and welcome to Office Hours, a live component of the facility where good old Professor Kyle opens up his blast doors and allows you, members of the general public, and all my professors, staff, security team to come in for about the next hour or so. Ask me all your burning science and pop culture questions live. Look, I'm not a working scientist, I'm not a doctor, but I know a little bit about most sciencey things. As we're going through today, we'll be talking about anything that you want to be talking about. We'll also be talking about yeeting rockets into space. Once I fix my hair. Perfect. Yeeting rockets into space. In between that, we'll be taking all your comments, questions, and corrections. If you really, really want me to see something, the best way to do that is, of course, to join the facility, which you can do by going to patreon.com/KyleHill, draping on a silky white lab coat. You can talk with me almost every day. The professors and my security team know that's mostly true. But you can also try using Super Chat, as you're seeing accumulate here on the monitor before you. As an example, we have a $500 donation from Sparky, who says, "Can't wait to be tossed into space like Gimli from Lord of the Rings." You have to toss me. Sparky is wild. Sparky doesn't need a launch system like this because Sparky is so muscular and well developed as a man that he can wind his arm up like he is hitting the guitar, like the guitars from the Who, Pete Townsend, and he can just yeet something with his own incredible arm strength right into space. That's why he makes that kind of money. Fishing is Neat with the 5 says, Kyle, your content is amazing. You've inspired me to look back to going into school for another degree. Keep up the great work. Fishing is Neat. That is the best praise I can get. I can't promise that I'll get to all of your super chats as they pop off, but know that anything that I miss does go towards funding the facility, everything that we're doing here, paying for hair care products, tweezers, trips to Chernobyl, that sort of thing. Just like Kaylin Andy with the 15 Australian dollars. But do you know what spins me right round? Just like going to the other side of the hemisphere in Australia, it's a spinny... It made sense to me in my head. So, this spinny boy, this spinny tube, or disc, is one of the largest evacuated spaces on the planet Earth. And when I say evacuated spaces... no, evacuated spacey is Hollywood because they got rid of them. When I say evacuated... that's good. Evacuated spaces... I mean, there's no air inside. It's a vacuum chamber. And it's a vacuum chamber to reduce drag. Why does it want to reduce drag? Because it wants to yeet a rocket, or a stage of a rocket, from this giant tube, which at full design height will be about as tall as a Statue of Libby, uses that tremendous height and an arm going around in a circle to use forces to yeet a rocket into space. Tristan Green with the 10 says, easy solution to the wheel of yeet balance issue. Release an iron counterweight at the same time down a shaft lined with copper coils to charge a capacitor and spin the wheel up again. That sounds very smart. I don't know if that would work. We'll get to the balance problem. First of all, what the heck are we talking about here? Okay? So what we are looking at is from a company called Spin Launch, which is has a lot of private funding and whatnot. But Spin Launch seeks to find a new viable, not just engineering viable, but monetarily viable way of getting payloads in to low Earth orbit. So this is not what we're about to go through. It's not a way to solve getting humans into orbit and larger payloads into orbit, because the mathematics just doesn't really work out that way. But this could replace our ways of getting LEO satellites into, or that was redundant, satellites into LEO, something like that. So this is Spin Launch, and what am I talking about? What is it doing? Well, Ray Goodlook with the $50 donation says, hey Kyle, Elizabeth had a question for you. Ray, look at you, simping for another simp. Of course, Elizabeth Calvert had another question, as she usually does at the beginning of the stream. Her tiny human asks, why, when you draw on a window with condensation, then it gets cold overnight, why does it freeze in the pattern that you drew? Well, probably because hydrophilic or hydrophobic oils from your finger or your hand are carving out a pathway on your window and making an area where condensation will either not drip into or not form again. And so if everything freezes in place overnight, you kind of have that pattern in place. That's what I would guess off the top of my head. But back to Spin Launch. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about this bad boy. So let's watch this together, you and I. It's only 1:24, but we'll be pausing so we can actually talk through it. So, out in the desert of New Mexico, next to a lot of people with hard hats, you can see just how large this new launch device is. Now, at its heart, it's just a big airless disc that has a rocket on one end of it, and it's spinning around an axis of rotation, like a trebuchet. But it's a space trebuchet. Arguably the coolest trebuchet. There's nothing sciencey here that I'm noticing, except that that dude is wearing a Hand of Sauron hard hat from Lord of the Rings? That's pretty badass. He's an Uruk-hai trying to launch a rocket Uruk-hai. Oh! 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 I know. It was right there on the teleprompter, but I mean, I still nailed the delivery, right? You don't know. Shut up. Anyway. It's a very SpaceX style or SpaceX looking operation. It's all very slick, all very clean, looks professional. A lot of people with long hair, so you know they're nerds. Otherwise, what would they be doing? Playing in high school bands? Kyle's humor is on fire today, says Cynic. Well, let's wait and see. A lot of buttons. So you can see the size of this thing. These are full scale, like cranes or lifters, right? Like cherry pickers. Look at the size of this compared to the size of that. It's an absolutely enormous device, which you need when you're doing physics like this. You gotta put some argon. And with the man button, it's okay. It's all right. We'll get through it. Just gotta brush it a little bit. Okay, so at the heart of this thing is this. A big, I know, at least comb. I know. At the heart of this spinning disc is this spinning thing. Now, keep in mind, everything, there's no air inside of here, and there's no air inside of here, so it's easier to spin the thing. Drag as a force is proportional to the velocity of the thing moving through the medium squared. So the faster something goes, if something goes twice as fast through the air, it encounters 4 times as much drag force. And so to reduce that drag force, either you reduce the velocity, which we don't want to do if we're yeeting something into space, or we make the density of the medium 0, which is to say, nothing. So, the mechanics of this launch, what you can see how fast this thing is going. The mechanics of this launch that spin launch is trying to do is slowly accelerate this large device. What power does the spinning boy need? Volts, amps, AC, DC, Katie blade with a 10. Katie, it's using electromagnets to spin this up. I'm not sure what the electricity that they're using, but one of the big advantages here is that they are using electricity and not heavy polluting chemical fuel. That's one of the big advantages. This is 100% electrically based. Twinge, thank you again for the $1 and the cat with sunglasses. You know I love it. So what was I saying? So the cool thing here is that spin launch gradually accelerates this payload on the end of their spinny boy. So instead of basically putting some payload on top of a rocket explosion, they accelerate up to 400 revolutions per minute over about 90 minutes, over about an hour and a half. And over that time, tangential velocity, the velocity on that something would feel on the outside of this thing, depends on the radius. And this thing is about 100 meters in diameter, I believe. So in diameter, it's a football field, an American football field. So this thing is quite wide. So you can imagine at 450 RPM, at the very end of this thing, it gets going very fast. And indeed it does, as we will see in just a moment. Captain Crunch has 100% electricity base from our coal power plants, though, Kyle. Well, that's not a problem with this. It's a problem with the energy generation. That doesn't argue against not using chemical rocket fuel, right? Anyway. So, very, very fast. Then guys who are right out of college, they get up, they're college interns, it's 8 in the morning, they didn't brush their hair, they get ready to launch a rocket. You know how it is. When you're a rocket scientist, I do. Now there was the operative moment, right there. They spin this thing up to 450 RPM on the edge, and then here comes YEET! Now, okay. Now here's the cool thing. Here was the test. Now this was a test of this system. This was only going 180 RPM. This system was smaller than the design calls for in the end. But here's the first cool part here. So you see this layer, because the whole disc itself is evacuated of air, it needs something frangible yet sturdy to protect it against the atmosphere. So it needs to seal off against the atmosphere trying to get in, but it needs also to be frangible enough that a rocket can yeet itself through it without damaging the rocket. And that's exactly what it does. This is in thermal imaging. You see the rocket now yeeted itself out of here. And what you'll notice, and Scott Manley, I'm sure many of you watch Scott Manley on YouTube, what he pointed out to me, which, well, not to me, in his YouTube video on this, which is 10 minutes, and it's a lot more instructive than I'm being, surely, but he doesn't have as much hair as me. What you'll see, if you pay attention, is that in thermal imaging, you'll see this get lighter, which means that immediately after being yeeted out of this disc, it's becoming like white hot. And that's because this rocket is exiting this tubule, scientific term, at Mach 6. So 6 times faster than the speed of sound, which is 4.5-ish thousand miles per hour. And it heats up so quickly because it's going from vacuum directly into lower Earth's atmosphere. So it's a radical increase in density, which increases that drag force a lot, like we talked about. Yay! Let's get haircuts. I'm not making fun of them. I'm just critiquing. So they're very happy about it, of course. I don't know why I'm narrating this point of the video. I forgot if they do anything after this. So again, you can see the size and the scale of this thing, and this thing is supposed to get even bigger than this. That's a cool image. Congratulations. So, why do we want to yeet rockets into space? Well, again, let's be super clear with what we're talking about here. So, there are a number of ways you could get a rocket into space in low Earth orbit without chemical propellant. You could use rail guns, you could use electromagnetic propulsion, that kind of thing. But yeeting, or you could just use like a traditional gun, a big one. And designs like that exist. But this one uses only electrical power and the physics of circular motion. That doesn't mean that it's easy. When this is moving around, the payload on the end of it, which is a rocket, that basically they're yeeting it into low Earth orbit, and then it separates and has a second stage that can get it even further inside of it. So it has propellant like a traditional rocket inside of it, but not for that first stage where most rocket fuel is used in traditional rockets. Now, I say it's not easy because when it's moving around in this circle, it is experiencing 10,000 Gs right before it releases. So obviously, because it's building up to this G load, this peak G load over time, anything inside is going to experience thousands and thousands of Gs for a long time, and 10,000 at its peak, which means no human could ever ride inside of this thing. It would kill you easily. All the blood would be forced either into your brain or into your feet. You'd pass out and you'd die. And you would collapse. 10,000 Gs means if you weigh 720, you go from your weight to suddenly many tons of weight. Your body would fail. So you can't have humans in this kind of thing, but it could be economically viable to throw something like satellites or other payloads into space like this. And I said this wasn't easy, even though it's a solved mathematical problem, what is happening inside of a disk and how fast you have to throw it. 450 RPM, Mach 6, you have to be very, very precise on releasing that payload. It has to release right here, or else it's going to fly and destroy the disk, right? So they have about 1 millisecond, 1/1000th of a second to release this payload. And that's incredibly difficult, right? And not only that, as Scott Manley points out, that when they release this thing, on one end of the throwing arm, it's holding on to thousands of tons of weight, and then suddenly nothing in a millisecond. So this thing has to be balanced, or has to instantly balance itself in a way that's really, really hard to do, or else the thing's just going to destroy itself. Amp with the 10 says, speaking of pressure differentials, how would the pressure differential in Chernobyl in the new safe confinement? Well, spoiler alert, I just got the first cut of chapter 1 of the first video. I think we'll now have 8 videos from Chernobyl coming to you over the next 6 months to a year, or 8 months, or whatever the heck we decide on. And we did go into the new safe confinement, into the dome, that much like this has a pressure differential, as you say. I had to go through an airlock. And the new safe confinement is negatively pressured, so that if it was ever punctured by anything, air would rush in instead of inside air rushing out and dust, radioactive dust getting out. So we had to go through an airlock. Going into Chernobyl, I had to go in safe clothes, and then I had to change out of those clothes into plant clothes, and then I had to change out of those plant clothes into sarcophagus clothes, and then I had to put on a mask, a respirator, a hard hat, and gloves, and then I had to go through an airlock. It was like going into space. Going to Chernobyl like that, being one of the few people to go inside and show you. I was looking today. What I'm going to show you, I think, and I haven't scoured the internet, but I think is one of the only people to show you what I'm going to show you. I haven't seen it anywhere else. I think it's quite unique. And I say that to say this, it's like walking on the moon going there. It's really, really cool. For a nuclear nerd. But it's fine. Anyway, yeeting rockets into space, why would we do it? Well, there's no heavy fuel for the first stage. Because spin launch, to Scott Manley's point, they're doing this end to end. They're coming up with the technologies, with how to actually launch this. A company could contract them, and they would deal with all of the problems from beginning to end, so it could be much more economically viable, cost a lot less than a traditional rocket launch. There's no pollution from the fuel. And the electronics that we have today can already survive these thousands and thousands of Gs. Spin Launch points out, as does Scott Manley, your phone, even though it can crack its glass when it drops on the ground, sustained G loading, your phone already has electronics that can deal with 10,000 Gs of sustained loading. So we already have the technology that we can do this. Now, if this doesn't, well, Airbender Steven with the 10 says, hey Kyle, first time, long time. Finally caught you live. As a huge Avatar fan myself, you've inspired me to look into the physics behind real life bending. Simp for science. Steven, this is rocket bending. Yeah. Tyrannosaurus. Nice. Good afternoon, Kyle, with the 5. Wondering if you have any thoughts on Khan Academy. I really look up to Sal and have been using it for years. Khan Academy is not the flashiest thing in the world, but what it did pretty much before everyone else, including me, was the Because Science approach, which was a very easy approach to focus on math and concepts, and in a whiteboard format that you're more or less familiar with, and make it accessible and free to everyone in the world. It's a fantastic thing. Would I say you can learn everything you need to learn from Khan Academy? No. But is it a useful resource? Yes, of course it is. Brian Murray with the 5 says, question from the VODlands, would you ever consider guesting on William Osman's science podcast called Safety Third? Yeah, William and my pal Adam Pan, they have a podcast called Safety Third, and I would, but I've called them out on their safety specifically a couple times, so it might be an interesting podcast, but I would go on and get in their faces about it if that's what you're asking. But whether or not this is economically viable, whether or not this is going to make them any money or any companies actually want to do this, that remains to be seen. But what does seem to be proven by what we were looking at earlier, what does seem to be proven is that the physics of this and the engineering of this works, and it makes sense. You spin something really fast, you let it go. 3, 2, 1. Nailed it. Now, as Scott Manley points out, if this doesn't work out here on... That's nice. If this doesn't work out here on Earth, you could have a potential application on a place like the moon with no atmosphere. And then you remove that drag problem, the aerodynamic stabilization problem, having to fight through the atmosphere after being spun up in vacuum. It could be, if the moon is one way station launch point to going further into space, then having one of these on the moon could facilitate that. Just like I facilitate things here at the facilitate. Now, before I forget, and we'll get to your comments and questions, of course. Sea salt spray. Before I forget, I wanted to point out, I recently checked the facility mailbox, and I got this lovely and long letter from AJ. AJ is very nice in this letter. And so AJ, thank you, and I'm happy to be of any help that I possibly can. But AJ sent me two things: a hand-knitted hyperbolic shape that is very interesting and fun to touch, kind of fidget-wise, and AJ also hand-knitted me what is AJ and I's favorite animal, a little flamboyant cuttlefish, complete with tenties. Little flamboyant cuttlefish on a keychain. So I just wanted to say, before I continue and before I forget, AJ, thank you. If you want to send stuff to the facility PO box, you can always do that. Gotten some very cool stuff. But AJ, thank you. This will go up. I have a giant squid also. Not hand-knitted, but a giant squid from the Discovery Channel up here. And it's going to be my squid area of my mantle. Oh! I know. Like, where does it come from? You know? We have Sure Shock with the Australian $10. Am I viewed exclusively in Australia? Because when I look at my demographics, it's not even like, I don't even think it's top 3. A lot of Australians. I love it. I love you. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. Sure Shock with the Australian $10. Released accurately from encoder signal, perhaps? Oh, releasing within a millisecond window for the spin launch. I don't know how they do it. Sovereign Wind with the 10 says, hey Kyle, what do you think of the feasibility of something like the anime Capellion? Basically genetic engineering to be resistant to radiation to work on radioactive places. I think, why not? Organisms like we were talking to at the let's say there was a planet of tardigrade-like creatures and I could talk to them on my phone. Tardigrades, we know, have evolved to have some kind of radiation damage suppression genes. All animals on Earth have some level of DNA repair mechanisms built into their bodies, because to evolve on Earth is to evolve under the bombardment of cosmic radiation. But some animals are more resistant than others. More complicated animals have more stuff to destroy in their cells, and so you're more susceptible to radiation than a tiny little ladybug is, or a ladybird if you're from across the pond. But other creatures we discovered, like tardigrades, are incredibly resistant to radiation because they have damage suppression genes that can give them additional protection from radiation, ionizing radiation, like X-rays. So when you say, is genetic engineering to be more radiation resistant possible? Well, nature's done it before. So if we could figure out how to safely transgenically make you that way, then I don't see why not. Nature's done it before, right? CA says, I love you, fancy hair man. Well, we just met. Buy me a drink first. Iwan Ive says, bring back the space cannons. Talk more about space cannons. What? I covered everything. Probably. Twinge with the 20. Thank you again for simping. This is like your 5th time today. What is it? When are you going to do a bit on quantum computer? When are you going to do a bit on quantum computers? Well, when I do a bit on quantum computers, it's more likely it's going to be a qubit. I know! I'm in fuego right now. This means on fire. Read a book. Jeez. Arjun Dariwal with a very insightful question. Kyle, will you be at Matt, Pat, and Game Theory's charity live stream this year? Spoiler alert. Hell yeah. I've done the previous 2 live streams for St. Jude with Matt, Pat. Spoiler alert, I will be doing it again. He refuses to tell me what I'll actually be doing, but he says it might get messy. So, I have that to look forward to. Hi from Iceland, Kyle. Hello. Brown C says, wait, I caught a live stream? No. Just go back to the chat. You're having a dream. Mike Looning, US viewer here. USA. Wow. Show them Aussies who's boss, huh? I recently got back from Ukraine, where I took a tour of Pripyat. Oh, I think you messaged me somewhere, right? That you were doing this? You also just got back from Pripyat, and I made sure to grab a few pencil dosimeters for friends and family. I hope you avoided contamination like I avoided contamination. Yes, I brought back my own radiation detectors here. Let's check what the background rate here is, huh? 11 microsieverts per hour. Nothing. 11 microsieverts per hour when you are in the air. So I can't tell you where I am. But when you're on the ground, basically, this is fine. 0.1 microsieverts per hour. So it's even less than a millionth of a sievert per hour. When you're in a plane, this goes to like 3. It's like 30 times higher. Yeah. Airplanes. I'll say this. When I was flying to Ukraine, I was encountering a background radiation on the plane that was higher than in most places in Pripyat. Now, can you find hotspots in Chernobyl? Yes, of course. But most places are less radioactive than sitting on a plane. And that's something that I want to get through to you. But thank you for the 10, Mike. I hope you also had a good time in Pripyat. I brought so many cameras and drones, and just wait till you see this drone footage that we got, Mike. I hope you like what we brought back. I'm glad that you are also safe and healthy. I am safe. Okay, it was at 0.1 over here. Let me just check the goods. Make sure I'm not radioactive. I'm good. I had to recalibrate this thing because I had the threshold set at what I thought was I had it set at like plane value, like 3 or 4 or 5 microsieverts per hour. And in a lot of the places that we went into, you couldn't turn this on without this immediately screaming at you, like bee-doo, bee-boo. So that was a fun, totally not scary exercise. We were there with very smart people, so I wasn't ever really afraid, but you definitely had to be careful. Adam Frost within New Zealand, $35. Hey Kyle, love your work. Just wondering, does a gas like hydrogen create less drag being a lighter atom? Does it compare to vacuum at all? So vacuum will always be better in terms of drag because there's literally no particles getting in the way. But does hydrogen create less drag? Yes. Like I said, drag force is proportional to 1/2 times the density of the medium multiplied by the shape coefficient, the drag coefficient, which depends on shape, multiplied by the cross-sectional area that is moving through that medium, what the object is presenting to the air, multiplied by the velocity squared. So yes, less dense air means less force, which means yes, helium would be better. Waldo Nobody with a ZAR 35, don't know what that is. Oh, South African. Aye? Sure, it is 1 a.m. here, but I need to finish this project for my third year electrical engineering module by today. Whew! You procrastinated too much. I know you'll get it done. You'll be fine. Probably. But that's why I like to try and procrastinate with a purpose. Trademark. And that is, if you have something that you're dreading doing, something big, put off doing that by doing smaller things that are easier. And eventually you will have to do the big thing, but you're still doing work. You're still putting in time you would have put in otherwise. So it's not like you're wasting time. Procrastinate with a purpose. TM. Inte with the 109 SEK. Hey, Kyle, isn't this just accelerating at 1G in order to reach 10,000 G? So theoretically, you could survive the YEET. Plus, what do you think about physical hard light? I've never read anything that made hard light make any sense to me. But no, this thing... Okay, so if this thing is if spin launch is accelerating slowly, basically you're asking, if it's accelerating at a constant 1G, couldn't you survive it? You can survive that rate of acceleration, but if you keep accelerating at that acceleration, if you're building, I don't know if it's a constant rate of acceleration. I don't know what they said. But they said peak G forces are 10,000 G. Right. And it's in vacuum and they're spinning it up over a half an hour. So I got to imagine that why is my brain not working on this? You're constantly accelerating, so you're constantly getting heavier and heavier. And so at some point you're going to weigh so much that you're going to die. Right. Thank you, chat. Thank you, chat, you bunch of geeks. Everyone's saying it right there. Yes, because it is angular movement, you are always accelerating because the velocity vector is always changing. And so you get heavier and heavier as you get faster and faster. Yes, as a tangential velocity gets faster and faster, the acceleration gets faster and higher and higher, and then you get heavier and heavier, and then you die. Mr. Big Ear says, wow, I can see myself in chat. Very cool. You use your privileges wisely. Aria found a energy drink that's coffee flavored, has caffeine in it, and it's a protein shake. It tastes exactly what you think it tastes like. JB with the 15 says, about how long would a high-speed train / railgun in a vacuum tunnel for launching people into space? How long would a high-speed train or railgun, I'm guessing, have to be or move through a vacuum tunnel? I don't know what you mean. But so what you said made no sense to me. But we can get at that a different way. So when some of you were saying, if you're constantly accelerating, how fast can you get? How long would something have to be? I just want to show you quickly, just a quick little fun fact for you. The power of constant acceleration, okay? So if you are in a spaceship accelerating at 1G linearly, so you don't get too heavy and die, if you're in a spaceship accelerating, if you're providing 1G of acceleration, that means you can provide artificial gravity in the form of thrust, and your feet having a normal force on the decks that are perpendicular to the thrust. Anyway, like the Expanse does, because it's smart. You can travel in that spaceship at 1G, living comfortably in normal Earth gravity. But if you have enough fuel to accelerate at 1g consistently for a long time, you can go very fast in not that long of a time, because 1g of acceleration, 1 meter per second, adds up very quickly, and I will show you it thusly. So let's say that we are moving at 1 g's worth of acceleration, 9.81 meters per second per second. This would give you an artificial gravity on your spaceship that feels like Earth, if it's orientated the right way. Katie Blade with the 10 says, Simpin ain't easy, but it sure is fun. That's what Biggie Smalls said, right? Yes, on his deathbed. I don't know why I said that. Let's say you're in a spaceship accelerating at 1g. Let's say you want to go anywhere in the universe, which means it's very far away. Let's say that takes you... Let's say you're just traveling through space for a month. Let's say 6 months. That sounds like a long space journey, right? So how fast will you be going after just traveling in normal, what feels like Earth gravity? It won't even really feel like you're moving in the spaceship, but you're on a long-haul space mission, you're traveling for 6 months. Well, I want to show you the power of constant acceleration. So I'm going to divide it by this letter, C, which I'm sure many of you know, and then I'm going to multiply it by 100. Why do I do that, Kyle? Because this. If you travel in a spaceship moving at 1g, a conservative 1g, such that it feels like Earth, for 1 month, for 6 months consistently, after 6 months, you'll be traveling at half the speed of light. And suddenly relativistic effects come into play. Not that much, but come into play. You're aging a lot less than people on Earth. But the power of constant acceleration is this. Just 1g for 6 months, less than a year, and you are traveling at half the speed of light. I think that's incredible. I like doing math in real time, but only when I get it right, or it makes sense. Because when it does, I look smart, and when it doesn't, I look like, a first year. Draconic author, says $10. Hey Thor, love the Mjolnir. Oh wait, you mean this? Do you mean this? Guess who got a 3D printer recently? Sure, it's just a glorified ring holder at this point, but shut up. I can do whatever I want with it. That's real size, by the way. I'm huge. Can I contribute to your nerd cred? After that math formula? Yeah. And hey, can we use a spin or boo like that if big enough to create gravity in space? 100%. So actually, I'm writing this episode today, right now. After I get off stream, I'll finish it. But the easiest way to make gravity in space is with a spinning thing like this. And the most famous spinning thing in science fiction, I argue, probably, to most people, what most people would recognize, is like a halo ring from Halo. And the math works out, kind of like we were doing here, that a ring does not have to be that big to give you a nice comfy 1g of acceleration. And I'm not going to do that math here because we're going to do it there. Does ARIA appear as a full hologram with a full body and a bodysuit? Maybe. You'll have to watch to find out. What do I know? I don't know nothing. Alicia with the 20 says, no question this week, just simping for that sweet, sweet science. Caleb with the 5 says, has anyone mentioned Stalker as a possible game stream? Yes. I think the next game stream, we need more videos coming out on the gaming channel, but right now the Kevins are, it's taken a long time, as you might imagine, to go through my 360 gigabytes worth of Chernobyl footage. So we'll get more stuff on the gaming channel, but coming up, maybe next weekend, maybe next weekend we might be playing Half-Life. We'll see. But right after that, or soon, we will be playing through the campaign of Halo Infinite and doing all the science there. A science video about Halo rings and streaming the game, it's almost like you're trying to build some sort of brand. I don't know. Aranzel says O'Neill space cylinders, space stations, as in Babylon 5. I'd argue that the Halo rings are much more famous on that. Mod Heather says gaming on Twitch or YouTube. Don't know yet. I still need to do the YouTube experiment. We'll see. Half-Life 2. Yeah. We'll be doing Half-Life 2 correct as well. And by correct, I mean I contacted Dr. Breen, and he gave me all the specs for their monitors and their visuals and stuff. So all the Kevins are working on that now. Do I have to wear glasses as I do it? Probably, right? I probably do. Sonic rings. Sorry, I was just taking it all in. Do you ever stop and do that? You know what? I'll be right back. Isn't she derpy? I think so. Just a couple more minutes here. Let's take comments, questions, corrections. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot of other stuff to talk about because there wasn't a new video at the facility yet. Again, we are working on getting stuff out from Chernobyl. It's past the first edit. It's coming out very soon. Te promete. My facility members are seeing some of the first images from that. And, The next video coming to you at the facility, though, will be the winners of the Wormhole Challenge. That's right. I finally closed the submission door on the Wormhole Challenge. And at the end of the day, there was over 400 video submissions trying to win a combined $5,000 from yours truly to come up with a better demonstration than the old pencil through paper trick. Over 400 submissions. It took me 7 hours to watch them all. I narrowed them down into folders, and then from those folders, I selected potential winners. And from those potential winners, I gave them to my expert judges and myself. So all the Kevins here evaluated. I put in my vote. I had Veritasium himself look at some of the potential winners. I had a theoretical quantum physicist who helped advise on Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, all the Ant-Man films, and together we selected 3 winners: third place, second place, first place. The fun thing is, chat, those winners will not discover that they have won until the video comes out. Everyone's going to find out in real time, and then I will send them their sweet, sweet Benjamins. But selecting the winners was hard. I think there's still room. I'll say this. I think there's still room for other explanations and other better ways of showing the pen and paper wormhole trick. But, yeah, 400 video submissions, thousands of you thinking about wormholes. Very much enjoyed looking through all of those. Some of you sent me like 10 submissions. I watched all those too. But that video is coming up very soon, and yeah, that was a fun 2 days. A lot of you doing impressions of me or trying to construct your own facility, or constructing your own little demonstration device to show how wormholes work. I liked it a lot. Decaf Coffee with the $9.99 says the final battle in Eternals has some interesting physics implications. After it's been out for a while, would you consider talking about it? Yeah, I might talk about it. But if I'm being honest, that movie looked empty and boring, and I don't know why it existed. So I don't think I'll be watching it. To be honest, I haven't watched any Marvel anything since Endgame. I haven't watched any of the... And I was done. I was done with superhero stuff after that, and then after I left Because Science and stuff, I was just like... I was just kind of superheroed out, you know? So maybe on stream, but probably not in a video, because I don't think I'm going to watch it, because I don't care. And that's fine. You don't have to care about everything. Mike, again. The man who traveled to Pripyat just like I did. Did you get the opportunity to eat at the workers' canteen while touring Pripyat? My tour rescinded that invitation at the last minute, and it broke my little stalker cosplaying heart, says Mike. I was there. Where is it? I was in Chernobyl on behalf, at the behest of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant itself. And so I have a letter from the Chernobyl nuclear power plant signed by officials there saying, Kyle here can go into the power plant, and he's approved to do so, yada, yada, yada. So we got access to do stuff that most people, most tour groups never get to do. And so, yes, I did eat in the power plant cafeteria every day. They have great cutlets and borscht. Lord Xantharn says, imagine being this handsome and being a science communicator. Oh, keep up the excellent work. Crow, by the way, with the 20 says, what do you think about the Russian anti-satellite test? Yeah. I saw that. To not think about, or think about and go ahead anyway, and creating over 1,500 pieces of debris to put into orbit to contribute to potential Kessler syndrome and that kind of thing. Seems very reckless to me. Draconic again, follow-up about space gravity. Have you seen or played something besides The Expanse that did space gravity well or realistically? Yeah, there's a lot of spin gravity out around there. Babylon 5, thrust gravity, 2001, Space Odyssey, Interstellar had spin gravity. The Martian, I think, had spin gravity. So there's a lot of other places. It's just for whatever reason, most sci-fi either doesn't think about it or doesn't care to just make that simple change. Instead of something rotating or something spinning, they just say like, oh, it has gravity plates, and the plates make you heavy. Technical. Driskin, the 5, says, would it be possible to use a high-powered laser to heat the air and make a low-pressure tunnel through the atmosphere to have less drag on the YEET rocket? Like a plasma channel? I don't know. Don't know. It seems like heating up the air in front of something that you don't want to heat super much might be counterproductive and take a shnikes load of energy to heat the air for a long path, to turn a long path of air, an entire like 100 kilometers worth, or however much they're going through, into a plasma channel. But creating some sort of plasma channel with a laser is a way you could control the direction of lightning. And it's definitely not something I'm looking into. What are your thoughts on Doom? Says a static Ethan. The 2 most recent Doom games are awesome. That's what I thought. People laughing about someone getting deleted. That's what happens. how far up would be the best? Sorry. How far up would be the best altitude for a spin launcher? Like spin launch, like we were just going through, says Eve C. Well, the best altitude would be in space. They evacuate the disk and they have to separate it from the atmosphere to reduce drag. So if you were already in 0 kPa, if you already had 0 pressure around you, you wouldn't need that big evacuated disk, which would cut down on the construction and the costs of, all the pumping and all that kind of stuff. And when it was launched, it wouldn't have to move through all this heavy atmosphere in its way on the way to LEO. So it'd be better to be in space for a spin launcher like this. Donnie Seltzer says, what is your IQ, Kyle? I don't know. I don't know if I ever took an official IQ test. I probably took one of those IQ tests that was running around online when everyone was a teenager and in high school. They're like, Joe, check this out. And that was years ago now, so I don't know. What's a good IQ number? Also, is IQ a good measure of intelligence? Also, what's intelligence? IQ must correlate in some kind of way to some kind of intelligence. What I'm getting at is that it's a complicated question. I don't know what my IQ is. And I'd feel a lot of pressure. Because if I took an IQ test and it was low, would I tell all of you? I come to you with sciencey stuff. I try to educate you every day of my whole gosh darn life. What if I came to you and I told you my IQ was super low? Would you believe everything that I said as much as you do now? You'd like to say no, but in the back of your subconscious, right? It's fine. We all have that bias. We all have an intelligence bias when it comes to experts. That's fine. You see what I'm getting at here? Anyway. Darky Doom says, I bet you're in the high 130s. 135 rings a bell, but I don't. A lot of it is like spatial manipulation of shapes and stuff, which I like. I like isometric, like mentally, like isometrically moving stuff around in my head, which was good in engineering school, but I don't know. Keenan Rutledge says Kyle would have fit in the new Dune movie gorgeously. Point A, the new Dune movie is gorgeous. Point B, I may or may not have spent a stupid amount of money on the tie-in clothes for the Dune movie from an extremely expensive clothing brand. High-end clothing brand that had a high-end fashion Dune integration. I may or may not have bought a full outfit. So if you are going to Las Vegas this weekend to play Magic with me in Las Vegas, you might see some guy who looks like he belongs in Vogue fashion Dune edition taking some photos of the clothes in the desert. ARIA too. But the look and feel of Dune is so cool. It's like a cooler Star Wars. It's lived in and it's gritty, but the form has function and stuff like that. And the lines and the geometry is really cool. I couldn't help myself. It looks so dope. And if you've seen me, which you have, you know I kind of like that big, baggy kind of look and feel. Anyway. It wasn't like an advertisement or anything that I'm doing. It's just I wanted to look like I was in Dune. So bad. I mean, I kind of look like Jason Momoa in Dune, I suppose. But the same reason why he looked kind of weird when he shaved in Dune is the same reason why I haven't shaved in a year. I'm really worried that after putting on, let's say 25 pounds of lockdown muscle / weight, that if I shaved now, I would look, you would say something about it to me, and my psychology cannot handle that right now. Does anyone else have a science question before we go? Why are we doing... Is this what you enjoy? It can't be what most people enjoy. Let's check. Yeah, only 1,000 people here. They don't like this. They all left after I stopped talking about the rockets. That's fine. It's fine. Not a fan of clean-faced Jason. I know. Bouldering or rock climbing? Bouldering. Mike again. On the topic of Dune, would it be possible to mod my still suit to make Dune shine? Don't ride sandworms drunk. You want to turn your sweat into alcohol. I don't think it has the proper hydrocarbons in it, yeah? I don't think so. Duffy says, how was Chernobyl? You will find out. I just finished giving notes to one of my Kevins on the first... So, the first video I wanted to do from Chernobyl is basically the experiential one. What is it like to be there? Where did I actually go, and what is it like to be there? I did some other video topics, like about the wildlife in Chernobyl, about the update. I think the second most successful video we've ever done here at the facility was about something that's currently happening at Chernobyl. Well, guess what? I went into the power plant and asked them about it, and I got to see the actual readings on actual screens and photograph them and took video of what's actually happening in Chernobyl that people are worried about. Should you be worried about it or not? You'll find out. But the first video I did was very experiential. So what does it feel like to be there? You know, to get up in the morning and get on the 7 a.m. train with the workers and go there. And it turned out to be so long that I think we're going to release it in 3 chapters. And the first chapter is like 15 to 20 minutes. All this is to say that I think we have about 8 different Chernobyl videos. So you'll be, I hope you're not sick of it. It's turning out beautiful right now, but I hope you don't get sick of it, because I will have Chernobyl videos for like the next 6 months minimum. If I maybe do like maybe once a month. But so Chernobyl was incredible. And that's what Chat, thank you so much for being with me here today. Thank you to all of you who've been asking questions, who've been simping for science. I can't do any of this without you. This week at the facility, I'm announcing the winners of the Wormhole Challenge. That's going to be exciting. If you are going to Las Vegas to play Magic the Gathering, the first Magic Fest there in a couple of years, I will be there. I will be the guy wearing a mask who looks like he belongs in Dune. If you want to get destroyed in Magic, find me there at the tables. I'll see you there. If not, later this week, I might finish Dead Space on a Scientist Plays stream. After that, going to get Chernobyl videos. You're going to get Halo videos. You're going to see me on Matt Pat's Game Theory mega live stream, the biggest charity live stream on YouTube. You might be seeing me working with Magic the Gathering directly. Whew. We got a lot of stuff going on. Oh, and I may or may not have the first... Now, I know we dropped some merchandise a couple months ago. But we may or may not have the first fully fleshed out, brand new facility store with our first lifestyle drop. Hoodies, mugs, stickers, jackets, very comfortable t-shirts. We may or may not have our very first merchandise drop in the very near future, maybe even this month. So, stay tuned for that. It's not all facility logos. It's like art style. I call it millennial. Have a wonderful rest of your week. A lot of stuff coming up here at the facility. If you're not subscribed, if you're not liking the videos, and you do, please do so. Check out videos here. Check out the new gaming channel if you like that. Check out the Twitch wing of the facility if you like that. Check out so much. Become a member. Patreon.com/Kyle Hill. Thank you to the security team Thank you, Heather. Kept the chat very civil today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. It was recently Steve Irwin Day, so I'm feeling very kind and generous. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Until I see you next time, whether it be live or otherwise, be nice to each other. I'm going to do a Bob Ross wave. But Bob Ross is now live streaming their episodes? Anyway, here, watch this. This is Bob Ross wave. I've been practicing. So be nice to each other, because this is all we got. Okay, bye-bye.